My beloved brothers and sisters, there is something we need to understand about the way we live our lives today. Many of us feel a constant urge to explain ourselves to the world. We feel the need to tell people what we are going through, what we are planning, what we are building, what we are struggling with. It almost feels like our lives are not complete unless others know about them. But pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question. Why do we feel this deep need for people to know everything about us? Part of it is human nature. We seek understanding. We want someone to hear us. We want someone to validate our experiences. That is natural. Allah created us as social beings. But there is another reality we must recognize. Not everyone who listens understands. Not everyone who hears you carries your concern in their heart. Some people listen with curiosity. Some listen with judgment. Some listen with hidden jealousy. And some simply listen without caring at all. This is not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. It's not said to make you suspicious of everyone. No, Islam teaches us to think well of people. But Islam also teaches wisdom. Wisdom means understanding that not every door needs to be opened, and not every chapter of your life needs to be read by the public. There are parts of your life that are sacred. There are struggles that are deeply personal. There are dreams that are fragile in their early stages. And sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do for your own emotional and spiritual well-being is to protect those spaces. Think about it from a psychological perspective. When you constantly expose your personal life to the opinions of others, you invite noise into your mind. Every person brings their own perspective, their own fears, their own biases. Suddenly your clear vision becomes crowded with other people's doubts. A dream that was once pure begins to feel heavy. A decision that once felt certain becomes clouded. And sometimes the heart becomes exhausted not because the problem was big, but because too many voices were involved. Islam offers us a beautiful balance here. Yes, you can seek advice from those who are wise. Yes, you can confide in people who genuinely care for you. That is healthy and encouraged. But there is a difference between seeking sincere counsel and exposing every detail of your life to the world. The believer understands the value of privacy. The believer understands that some matters are best kept between themselves and Allah. Because the reality is this: the one who truly understands your life does not need an explanation. Allah already knows. He knows the thoughts you struggle to put into words. He knows the fear behind your silence. He knows the tears that fall when no one else is around. Sometimes we spend hours trying to explain our pain to people who cannot fully comprehend it. Yet the one who understands it completely is waiting for us to turn to Him. Reflect on this. When you sit alone and raise your hands in dua, you are speaking to the one who knows every detail already. There is no need to impress Him. There is no need to justify yourself. There is no need to perform. You can simply be honest. And there is something deeply liberating about that honesty. When a person realizes that Allah knows their struggle, something changes within them. They stop chasing constant validation from people. They stop measuring their worth by how well others understand them. Instead, they develop a quiet confidence, a calm heart, a sense of stability that comes from knowing that their story is already known by the one who matters most. This does not mean you isolate yourself from people. Islam never teaches isolation. We are a community. We support one another. But it does mean you learn the art of protecting your inner world. Not every success needs to be announced. Not every hardship needs to be explained. Not every plan needs to be revealed before its time. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes privacy is protection. And sometimes the greatest peace you will ever experience comes from knowing that your life is not being lived for the approval of the world, but for the pleasure of Allah. Because when Allah knows your sincerity, the opinions of people lose their power. When Allah sees your effort, the misunderstandings of people become small. When Allah understands your struggle, the need to prove yourself disappears. My brothers and sisters, the heart becomes lighter when it stops carrying the burden of public approval. And the moment you truly internalize that Allah already knows your story, you begin to live with a different kind of freedom. A freedom rooted in faith, a freedom rooted in trust. So protect your life, protect your peace, Protect the sacred conversation between you and your Creator. Because in the end, the most powerful validation you will ever receive is not from the world knowing your story, but from Allah knowing your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a burden that many people carry quietly in their hearts. It is not always visible on their faces, and they rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. They rarely speak about it openly. Yet it weighs heavily on their soul. It is the burden of the past. Many people sit with memories of mistakes they have made, decisions they regret, words they wish they had never spoken, actions they wish they could erase. And over time, these memories begin to shape the way they see themselves. They start to believe that they are defined by those mistakes. You keep a distance because of your mental wet. They chato that say it's stikat tiddi could not ties. They chato that say it's kezi yogis kich or wagis a dilchik na ties. Lekin apko koi khayal nahi rehna chahiye or khususiyat se bhi dilchasp nahi karege. They begin to think, perhaps I have gone too far. Perhaps Allah will not forgive me. Perhaps I am not worthy of coming back. And this is one of the most dangerous whispers a human being can accept in their heart. Because the moment a person believes that they are beyond the mercy of Allah, they begin to close the very door that Allah Himself has kept wide open. Think carefully about the wisdom of our faith. Islam does not deny that human beings make mistakes. In fact, Islam begins with the recognition that imperfection is part of being human. From the time of the first human being, error has existed. Yet alongside that reality, Allah placed something far greater: mercy. Allah did not create you expecting perfection. He created you knowing that you would stumble, that you would struggle, that sometimes you would fall. But He also created you with the ability to return. And this concept of returning, Tawbah, is one of the most powerful and psychologically liberating principles in Islam. Tawbah is not simply saying a few words of apology. It is a transformation of direction. It is the moment when a person pauses, reflects, and decides that they want to move closer to Allah again. And the remarkable thing is that Allah does not respond to Tawbah with reluctance. He responds with generosity. When a servant turns back sincerely, Allah welcomes that return. Many of us struggle with guilt because we measure ourselves by human standards. When people wrong us repeatedly, we often close the door on them, trust breaks, patience runs out, and relationships end. But Allah is not like human beings. His mercy is not limited by frustration. His forgiveness is not exhausted by repetition. A person may fall into the same mistake again and again, yet every time they return sincerely, Allah continues to accept their repentance. Now reflect on the psychological impact of this understanding. If a person believes their past permanently defines them, they lose hope. And when hope disappears, motivation disappears as well. Why try to change if you believe change is no longer possible? But Islam does something profound. It separates your past actions from your future potential. Your past does not imprison you. Your past informs you. Your past teaches you. Your past can even elevate you if it becomes the reason you sincerely turn back to Allah. Some of the strongest believers are not those who lived perfect lives. Rather, they are those who once felt distant from Allah but eventually discovered the beauty of returning to Him. And that return transforms them. It softens their hearts. It deepens their humility. It strengthens their relationship with their Creator in ways they never imagined. This is why despair is never an option for the believer. No matter what you have done, no matter how far you feel you have drifted, the road back to Allah is always open. Sometimes people delay repentance because they feel ashamed. They feel that they must somehow fix themselves before turning back to Allah. But the reality is the opposite. You turn to Allah first. And through that connection, Allah helps you heal. He helps you grow. He helps you become a better version of yourself. So if there is something in your past that weighs on your heart, do not let it become a permanent shadow over your life. Learn from it. Seek forgiveness sincerely. And then move forward with hope. Because a believer is not defined by the mistakes they made yesterday. A believer is defined by the sincerity with which they return to Allah today. And the moment you truly understand the depth of Allah's mercy, something remarkable happens within you. The chains of guilt begin to loosen. The heaviness of regret begins to lift. And the heart begins to believe again that change is possible. My brothers and sisters, never allow shaitan to convince you that your story is over. As long as you are breathing, your next chapter can be one of repentance, growth and closeness to Allah. Your past may be filled with mistakes, but Allah's mercy is greater than every one of them. And the most powerful step you can take today is simply this: turn back to Him. My dear brothers and sisters, there is something about hardship that human beings naturally resist. When difficulty enters our lives, our first instinct is to ask a question that has echoed through the minds of people for generations. Why is this happening to me? It is a question born from pain, confusion, and sometimes even fear. When things go wrong, when plans collapse, when relationships break, when doors close, we often assume that something has gone terribly wrong with our lives. But Islam invites us to look at hardship from a very different perspective. In the Islamic worldview, difficulty is not always a sign of rejection. In fact, many times it is the very opposite. Hardship can be a sign that Allah is shaping something within you that comfort could never produce. Think about the way human beings grow. Strength does not develop in ease. Patience does not develop in constant comfort. Wisdom rarely emerges from a life where everything goes exactly according to plan. The qualities that elevate a person, resilience, humility, gratitude, patience, are almost always born in moments of difficulty. And this is why the lives of the most beloved people to Allah were not lives of constant ease. The prophets themselves faced immense hardship. They experienced rejection, loss, loneliness, and struggle. Yet these difficulties were not signs that Allah had abandoned them. Rather, they were part of the divine process that elevated their ranks and strengthened their connection with their Creator. So when hardship enters your life, it is important to pause and reconsider the meaning behind it. Perhaps the situation you are facing is not meant to break you. Perhaps it is meant to build you. There is a psychological transformation that occurs when a person begins to interpret hardship differently. Instead of seeing every challenge as a punishment, they begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. The mind becomes calmer, the heart becomes more patient, and the believer begins to search for the wisdom behind the moment, rather than drowning in the pain of it. Consider how often we look back at difficult moments in our lives and realize that those moments changed us in ways we could not have imagined at the time. A closed door forced us to pursue a better opportunity. A painful loss taught us the value of relationships. A period of loneliness pushed us closer to Allah. At the time, those experiences felt overwhelming. But later, when we look back, we see that they carried hidden blessings. This is why trust in Allah's plan is so central to the life of a believer. We do not always see the full picture. Our understanding is limited by the present moment. We see what is directly in front of us, but Allah sees the entire path of our lives. What feels like a delay to us may actually be protection. What feels like a loss may actually be redirection. What feels like a hardship may actually be preparation for something far greater. And this is where patience, sabor, becomes one of the most powerful qualities a person can develop. Het dit fai aboard alla facen sabor. But stoer devlad de joar to elpet zol vit nom prap all qualities a person can develop. And this is where patience, sabor, becomes one of the most powerful qualities a person can develop. And pray to way that to the bigoodness pity fear you afke way to it have devlad you ate. And pray to way the tour devlad you ate to pushite titi have bigoodness pity fear you ate. And pray to pushite titi fear you ate. And iso the problem with you ate. At it to be the problem with you ate. And it to be the problem with you ate. And iso 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 the problem with you ate. Patience is not passive suffering. It is not simply enduring pain without thought. True patience is an active form of faith. It is the decision to trust Allah even when the reason behind the struggle is not immediately clear. It is the belief that Allah's wisdom operates beyond the limits of our own understanding. When a believer holds on to this perspective, hardship begins to change its shape. It no longer feels like a meaningless burden. Instead, it becomes part of a journey, one that gradually elevates the soul. Hardship can purify the heart. It can remove arrogance. It can deepen gratitude for the blessings we once took for granted. And perhaps most importantly, hardship often pushes us toward Allah in ways that comfort never could. Think about the moments when you have made your most sincere dua. Often they come from places of difficulty. Nights when the heart feels heavy, when the world feels uncertain, when the only place left to turn is toward Allah. And in those moments, something remarkable happens. The connection between the servant and the Creator becomes stronger. The heart softens, faith deepens, and the person begins to realize that even within hardship, there is a form of mercy. So when life becomes difficult, do not rush to assume that your path is collapsing. Sometimes what feels like a collapse is actually reconstruction. Allah may be removing something that would have harmed you. He may be delaying something because the timing is not yet right. He may be preparing you for a responsibility or blessing that requires a stronger heart. The believer walks through hardship with the understanding that nothing in life is random. Every moment carries meaning, even when that meaning is hidden from us. And one day, when you look back on the struggles you once feared would break you, you may discover that they were the very moments that elevated you the most. So when hardship enters your life, do not lose hope. Do not assume that Allah has turned away from you. Instead, remind yourself of a simple but powerful truth. Sometimes the road that feels the hardest to walk is the very road that leads you closest to Allah.